We begin now at the top of Daf Beis Amud Aleph in Meseches Sotah. This is Sotah Daf 2a. The Mishnah says, Hamakane le'ishto, if somebody warns his wife. Rashi explains, Hamakane le'ishto, Lishna dekro nakat, this is the language of the Pasuk, V'kine es ishto. The Pasuk uses the language of V'kine when it talks about a person warning his wife. Well, the Kaman be'gemar mefarish, my lashon kinoi, the Gemara later on will explain what is this language of kinoi. Of Masnisin Mefarish, and the Mishnah will explain Keitzad Mekane La. How does he warn her? What is he warning her about? Omer La, we're talking about a case where he says to her, Al Tisteri Imish Ploni, do not go into seclusion with so and so, with a particular individual. And the Mishnah continues, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Rabbi Eliezer says, Mekane La Al Pishnaim. The warning is in front of her with two people, two witnesses, Umashka Al Piechor, and then he gives her to drink with one witness, or Al Piatzmo, or by himself. That's talking about giving her to drink from the bitter waters of the Sotah. Rashi says, Mekane lo al pishnayim, in bola hashkos, if he wants to make her drink from those waters to test, to see if she's committed adultery, so what does he have to do? Tzarech lahavi shnei edim sha'amar la bifneim. So he has to bring two witnesses, and he says to her in front of them, Al tisteri imo, don't go into seclusion with him. Vim lo kine lo bifnei shnayim. Now, if he doesn't warn her in front of two people, Eino neseres olav, so then she doesn't become prohibited to him, bisti rasa, by going into seclusion with that man, ve'eino mashkin, he's not able to give her to drink from the waters. Umashka al pi eid echad o al pi atzmo, and then it says that he gives her to drink through one witness or himself. What that means is, va'afilu ein edim shenistra. The point of Rabbi Eliezer is, even if there are no witnesses that she went into seclusion, ela eid echad, it was just one witness that saw that. Ohu atzma omer re'isia shenistra. Or he himself, the husband, says, I saw that she went into seclusion, achar shekinesi lo, after I warned her, neseres bistira ad shetishta. So then she does become prohibited through that act of seclusion until she drinks. That's what it means, mashka al pi eid echad, or al pi atzma. According to Rabbi Eliezer, you don't have to have two witnesses that see that she went into seclusion with that particular man. Now later on, Rashi says, we're going to learn out from Psukim that just the seclusion alone can create a prohibition. She's now prohibited to him, misafik, just out of a doubt, even though we don't know for sure that she committed any adultery. And the Mishnah continues, Rabbi Yoshua Omer, Rabbi Yoshua says, Mekane lo al pishnayim, he warns her through two witnesses, umashka al pishnayim, but also when it comes to making her drink, that also has to be through two witnesses. And the Mishnah explains, Keitzad Mekane lo, so how does he warn her? Omer lo bifnei shnayim, so he says to her in front of two people, Al tadabri imish ploni, don't speak with so-and-so, v'dibri imo, and she does speak with him. So adayin hi muteres lebeisa, so at that point in time, she is still going to be mutter to her household, and muteres lechol betruma, and she's still mutter to eat truma, she's only had the warning. Now, nechnasa imo lebeisa seiser, if she enters together with him to an area of seclusion, v'shoasa imo kedei tuma, and then she stays with him the amount of time that it would take for defilement, for this act of adultery to take place, at that point in time, asura lebeisa, she's usher to her household, ve'asura lechol betruma, and she's no longer permitted to eat truma. This is talking about, let's say she's married to a Kohen, v'yemes, and if he were to die at this point, choletzes v'lo misyav emes, so she would do chalitza, but there would not be yibum. And Rashi explains, Rabbi Yoshua Omer, Rabbi Yoshua says, Sarich beis edim aflas dirasa, we need to have two witnesses not only for the warning, but also for the seclusion. V'dibra imo shelo b'makom seiser, what that means is she speaks with him in an area that is not in a hidden area. That's why it says v'dibra imo, adayin hi muteres lebeisa, muteres lechol betruma. If she speaks with him, she's still going to be mutter because it's not an area of seclusion. Adayin muteres lebeisa, she's still mutter to her house, and what that means is l'shamish and bala, she can still have relations with her husband. Muteres betruma imeshes koheni, and again she's muteres to have truma, like we said, if she's the wife of a kohen, kedei tuma. But if she goes into seclusion, the amount of time it takes for defilement, kedei hara is the beginning of the act of bia. So once that happens, asura lebeisa, she's asur to her husband misafik, even from the doubt. Kedi alfinon lekamon shlosha v'nitma amurim beparsha. We learned that out. It says v'nitma 3 times in the parsha. V'kina is ishto v'hinitma v'nistra v'hinitma tachas isha v'nitma echad she'asura lebal. And what do we learn out from these 3 times? One time teaches us she's asur to her husband. V'echad she'asura lebol. And another time teaches us that she's asur to the adulterer. Im yomos bala. Let's say, for example, her husband dies. O yigreshener. Let's say her husband divorces her. She's asur to the adulterer. V'echad she'asura l'trum. And then the last one that teaches us because she's prohibited from having truma, again, if she's married to a Kohen. V'im meis. Now, if he dies, kodem sheishka, before she drinks from the waters, v'ein lo banim, and he has no sons, v'hizakuk liyavim, so she's really supposed to do yibum in that situation. But again, this was a situation where the process had begun. So in that case, choletzes linase l'shuk, she does chalitza in order to marry someone else, to marry to the outside. V'lo misyavemes, she should not do yibum in such a case. U'v'gemara yoleflan. This will be learned out in the Gemara. And the Gemara says, Michdi, let us see, Tana mi Nazir Salik. The Tan of the Mishnah is picking up from Meseches Nazir, meaning to say that the Meseches Sotah follows Meseches Nazir. So my Tana deka Tana Sotah. So what's the reason why the Tana has chosen after Nazir to then talk about Sotah? What is the connection between the two? And the Gemara answers, Kid the Rebbe, it follows what Rebbe said. The Tanya, as we learned in a Brisa, Rebbe Omer, Rebbe says, Lama nismecha parshas Nazir la parsha Sotah. Why is it that the parsha in the Torah, the parsha of Nazir, is next to the parsha of Sotah? Lomar lach, that's to tell you, Shekal haroa Sotah bekilkula, that anybody who sees a Sotah in her disgrace, yazir atzmam in hayayin, so he should separate himself from wine. And that's the reason why there's a connection between Nazir, who separates himself from wine, and Sotah. V'lisni Sotah, v'hadar lisni Nazir. So the Gemara asks, if that's the case, first we should have Meseches Sotah, and then we should have Nazir. And the Gemara says to that, Aidi the Tana Ksubas v'Tana Hamadir, since the Tana of the Mishnah learns Meseches Ksubas, and in Meseches Ksubas we talk about Hamadir, we talk about vows, so Tana Nadarim, so the Mesechta that follows that is Nadarim. The Aidi the Tana Nadarim, Tana Nazir, the Damila Nadarim, and once we've taught in the Mishnah, in the order of the Mishnah, the Meseches Nadarim, so then we learn Nazir, the Damila Nadarim, that again, that's similar to Nadarim. The Katani Sotah Kid Rebbe, and then once we have Nazir, so then it's followed by Sotah in accordance with the Rebbe's teaching. And Rashi explains again, when a person sees a Sotah in her disgrace, Yazir Atzmam and Ayayin, he should separate himself from wine. Shayayin maybe lidei kalas rosh vugaramla, because the wine is what causes this light-hearted attitude. It's what causes the situation of Sotah, and that's why a person should separate from wine. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, Hamekane, it says in the Mishnah that the person warned his wife, Di'evid in l'chatchila lo. It sounds like it's saying in the Mishnah, B'di'evid, after the fact, if he warns her, but l'chatchila, a husband really shouldn't warn his wife in this fashion. The Gemara says, Kasavar Tana Didan, our Tana holds, Asr l'kanos, that really it's prohibited to issue this warning. It's really prohibited to start the process. And Rashi says, Asr l'kanos, shemevi atzmum lidei tagar, v'esishto lidei nivel, because all that's going to happen over here is the person's going to start the warning, and it's going to begin this dispute and this disgrace for his wife. V'afilu hi Torah, even if it turns out that she's really pure, it is not a process that we want to start. And the Gemara continues, Amar of Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak, or Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak says, Ki have a pasach Reish Lakish b'Sotah, when Reish Lakish would open up in the teachings of Sotah, Amar Hachi, he would say as follows, Ein mezavgin lo la'adam isha ela lefi ma'asav. We only pair up a person with a wife, meaning a husband only marries a woman according to his deeds. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, and this is a pasuk from Tehillim, Ki lo yanuach shevet harasha al gorel hatzadikim. The rasha is not going to be paired up with the tzadikim. And Rashi says, Mezavgin isha lefi ma'asav tzenua l'tzadik, meaning a modest woman is going to go to the righteous, uprutza, and an immodest woman, l'rasha, will go to the wicked. As the pasuk says again, Ki lo yanuach shevet harasha al gorel hatzadikim, lo yizdavig memsheles rasha begorel tzadik. Again, it means that you're not going to have a situation where the rulership of the wicked will join together with the tzaddik, with the righteous. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabba bar bar Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Rabba bar bar Chana says that Rabbi Yochanan says, V'kashan l'zavgon kekriyas yamsuf. It is difficult to create this match of husband and wife like the tearing of the yamsuf, like the splitting of the sea. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, Elokim Moshev Yechidim Beisa Motzi Asirim B'kosharos. It compares the idea of taking single people and pairing them together and matching them to taking those out of prison, to freeing people, to Yetzias Mitzrayim. And that's the idea of the comparison. Again, Kasha l'zavgon kekriyas yamsuf. But the Gemara says, Ini, is that really true? V'amar Rav Yehuda Marav. But Rav Yehuda said that Rav said, Arboim miyom kodem yitzir savlad, that 40 days before the creation of the child, Baskol yotzes v'omeres, the Baskol goes out and it says, Bas ploni leploni, Bayis ploni leploni, the daughter of so-and-so goes to so-and-so, the house of so-and-so goes to so-and-so, Sada ploni leploni, the field of so-and-so goes to so-and-so. And so therefore you see it's not according to the deeds, but it's something that happens already early when the person is formed in the womb. And the Gemara says, Lokasha, that's not difficult. Hab zug rishon, in one case we're talking about zug rishon, meaning the first marriage of a person. Hab zug sheni, in the other case we're talking about the second marriage. And Rashi explains the Zug Rishon Lefi HaMazel. Zug Rishon, that does follow the Mazel. That's something that is predetermined ahead of time. It's not based on deeds. And Zug Sheni Lefi Ma'asav, the Zug Sheni, that goes according to a person's deeds. The Kashal is Avgon Lefi Shena Bazugo, and that's the one where it's difficult to make the match because it's not something that is preordained, and therefore it is difficult like Kriyas Yamsuf. And we will take a look at the earlier Rashi as well. Moshe Yechidim Beisa, the Gemara quoted the pasuk, Adam Yachid v'Isha Yechida, means to say there's a man by himself and a woman by herself. V'umezav gam yachad, and he pairs them, he matches them together. U'miyashem mehem bayis, and that creates from them a house. And that's compared to Motzi Asirim B'Kosharos, taking out those who are imprisoned. Hotzi As Yisrael Mitzrayim B'Chodesh Kosher. What that means is taking Klal Yisrael out of Mitzrayim in a good month, Lochama V'Lotzina, a month that wasn't too hot and not too cold. And the idea again is Makish Zivug Yechidim Li'Yitzias Mitzrayim. We're comparing the matching of individuals to Yitzias Mitzrayim. And Rashi over here also says, "Ini mi have a zivug lefi rasho zechus." Is it really true that the match is determined by the person's wickedness or the person's merit? V'amikodem yitzirasam she'ein no derisho zechuso machrizin es zugo. But doesn't this happen already before they're created? We don't know whether the person is wicked or not, and we're already announcing the match. And Rashi just points out, Hakol golei lefanav, but maybe you'll say, what do you mean we don't know? HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows everything. Hakol bidei shamayim chutz miyira shamayim. So Rashi says, no, everything is in the hands of heaven except for the fear of heaven. When it comes to that, there is free will, kedamar b'Meseches Nida, like it says in Meseches Nida, Malach hamamuna al ha'hiroyon notel tipu m'mevil l'fnei hamakam. The Malach who's appointed over the pregnancy, he takes the drop and brings it before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'yomer lefanav tipa zu matei olen. He says, what's going to be with this individual, with this drop? Gibor or cholosh, chacham or tipesh, asher or ani. Is he going to be mighty or weak, wise or foolish? He's going to be wealthy or poor. Avol tzaddik v'rasha lo kamar le. But it doesn't say, is he going to be a tzaddik or rasha? Di ein zeh bidei shamayim, because this is something that is not in the hands of heaven. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Rabbi Eliezer Omer Mekanei Lo Al Pishnayim V'chulu. Rabbi Eliezer says the warning is in front of two witnesses. And the Gemara says, Adkan Lo Pligi Elo B'kino Yastira. The machlokas in the Mishnah, in terms of the number of witnesses, is only talking about by the warning and by the seclusion. Avol Betuma, but let's say there is a witness in terms of the act of defilement itself, the act of adultery. So Eid Echad Mehem, and so even one aid would be believed. Utananamin, we learned in the Mishnah as well. Eid Echad Omer, let's say one witness says, Ani Roisia Shenitmes, I saw that she was defiled. So Lo Haisa Shosa, so in that case, she's not going to drink from the waters. And the Gemara says, Midoraisa Manolan, de Mehem Eid Echad, on a Doraisa level, from where do we know that one aid is believed? And the Gemara says, the Tan Rabbanan, that the rabbis taught, Ve'eid Ein Ba, it says that there's no witness, B'shnayim HaKosem Medaber. The pasuk means to say that there are not two witnesses, but there's one witness would be believed. Maybe what it means is that there's not even one witness. Talmud Lomer, that can't be, because the pasuk says Lo Yakum Eid Echad B'ish. It says that one witness cannot stand up in terms of being believed in terms of a court case. And Rashi says, Adkan lo pligi ela b'kinu yostira. The machlokas in the Mishnah is only by the warning and the seclusion. Kolomar Adkan lo shamanu mi plugsayu devoinan shnei edim ela b'kinu lo Rabbi Eliezer v'stir lo Rabbi Yoshua. Meaning to say, in the machlokas Tanoim in the Mishnah, so you see you need two witnesses by the warning according to Rabbi Eliezer and by the seclusion according to Rabbi Yoshua. Avol betuma, but when it comes to the actual act of adultery, yesh edim b'kinu yostira. Let's say you have the witnesses by the warning and the seclusion. V'yesh eid echad shekilkala b'stiras, and you even have one witness that says there actually was an act of adultery, that there actually was an act of defilement. So in that case, Neman, that Eid Echad would be believed. The Eina Shosa, the halacha there is, since the Eid Echad is believed, she does not drink from the waters. Eliyotza below ksuba, rather she is divorced and she does not receive her ksuba. Ve'asur lebalu lebolu letruma, and she becomes asur to her husband and to the adulterer and also to truma. Shenitmes ba'osa stira, again we have an aid that says that she was defiled during the time of that stira. Minolan de mehemen Eid Echad. So from where do we know that one aid is believed? Betuma shel stira achar kinoi. How do we know that one aid is believed if the aid sees the actual act of adultery after you have a situation of seclusion and warning? V'aid ein ba b'shnayim hakosem medaber. And so the Gemara brings the pasuk. It says there's no aid. We mean to say there's no aidim. There aren't two aidim. The ka'amar, what we're saying is as follows in the pasuk. Eidim shnayim ein betuma zu, elo eid echad. We're saying there are not two witnesses, there's only one. Ukra betuma kamishtai, and the pasuk is talking about a situation where there was an act of adultery. V'shachavish osa shechva zera ve'edim shnayim ein ba. The way you understand the pasuk is that a man was with her, and you don't have two witnesses. Elo echad, you only have one. V'hilo nisbasa lo nensa. Then the pasuk says v'hilo nisbasa, which means she wasn't raped. Umemela shaminan, and therefore from the pasuk we see to mehemen that aid is believed minachsiv v'hilo nisbasa, because the whole point of the pasuk is she wasn't raped, meaning lahachmer la kasav. The pasuk is saying we have to be strict with her. We believe the one aid and don't think that she can get out of it by claiming onus. Laduna kamezida, rather we're judging her like she did it on purpose. Umeresha the kranami shamata mehemen, and then Rashi says from the beginning of the pasuk we also see that one aid is believed. The kamar umola bomal v'shachav ishosa ve'ein meid bedover elazet, saying there's no one testifying except for this person. Well, the kamon mefarish the haikra basar kino iksiv, and the Gemara later will explain that this pasuk is being written after the warning. We understand the pasuk which says v'avar alav ruach kina means already there was a warning before this happened. Maybe the pasuk means there is not even one witness. The pasuk means to say there is not even one witness. Well, the common parach. Now the Gemara will ask later, how could the pasuk possibly mean that? Because if that was the case, why is she prohibited if there's no witnesses? The kamar kra v'hilon esbasa, like we just said before, the pasuk says v'hilon esbasa, indicating that we're being strict. Alma pshita the nitmes mi the mahader basar ones v'ratzim. We see clearly it's obvious that there was a situation of adultery because the pasuk is trying to determine whether it happened as a rape or whether it happened willingly. Talmud lomar lo yakom eid echad v'gomer. So the pasuk says it can't be one witness because there's another pasuk that uses the term eid echad. From there you see that if it doesn't say the word echad, so the word eid actually means shnayim. It means two witnesses. Shnayim heim kedim mefarish la'azal, as we will explain, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Beis Amid Beis.